So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, depending on your time zone. My name is Annabelle Rincon, and it's my privilege to welcome you to this Analytic Tableau User Group meeting. Today it's a little bit special because we will have only Tableau folks coming and speaking about the new features. So it's your time to ask any question you would like. We will try to monitor, of course, to make their life easier. And that's it. So what about our user group? It's about analytics all the time and about Tableau. And we are like three people running this user group. It's like Prasam, who is here, Shimdi, and myself. We have a slide for every one of us.
So, let's start with you.
Exactly, let's start with me. So I have the chance to be a visionary and an ambassador. You have my blog and my Twitter account if you want like to say hello. You can even find me on LinkedIn. My passion are obviously Tableau and chocolate. I'm living in Zurich, in Switzerland. If you have a job for me, please let me know, call me. And I'm also co-leading an enablement webinar and Data Plus Women user group. So please feel free to join. And then we have, who is the second one? Prasam. Good. So Prasam fell in love with Tableau and DataFarm and learned the way of giving back, and that's true. He had a lot of initiative on that sense. He is also a visionary and an ambassador. He has found Tableau Buddy on this dinner. And I should put also a fun fact. I don't have fun fact about myself. Like Prasam one is very good. Cat, food, and anime. 3 things he can die for. If you don't follow him in social media or in Tableau Public, you should probably there. His vises are really, really good. And he has 4 vis of the day. Maybe a 5th one this year, Prasam?
Hopefully. And then we have the superstar.
Exactly, Shimdi. 14 vis of the day. I think that we have to be several people to beat this good record. Shimdi is awesome. He's actually freelancing and contracting data visualization for clients. He's a visionary and ambassador. He fell in love with Tableau in 2020. And he has 14 vis of the day. The same for him. His portfolio in Tableau Public is awesome. You should definitely see what he's doing and get some inspiration. And I hope that we will be like the 3 of us in this year in San Diego. Maybe, Prasam, maybe.
Hopefully. I need to print the t-shirts as well that you asked for. So I'll be bringing that.
Oops. That's good. Okay. And now we'll let you with Prasam to speak about ground rules and also our awesome speaker that we have today.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. And thank you so much for the introduction, as always. And so everyone, most of you are always here, and I'll just go through the ground rules. One thing is to not make notes, and that's the important part because it's being recorded and you can always go back, focus on what the Tableau team is going to share with us, and then do ask as many questions because this is the right time. Okay, so the agenda, we already had this welcome, amazing welcome, as Annabelle always does it. And then we have the Meet the Makers of Tableau session by Christina, Swetha, and Daniel, and followed by Q&A, of course. Okay, let me now introduce our amazing speakers. They come with a lot of experience, and they have been shaping the whole product pathway for Tableau. And we're quite delighted to have them. First, we have Christina Obry. She is a Senior Director, Product Management at Tableau, and she's based in Vancouver, Canada. She's an analytical and results-driven technology leader with 15 plus years of experience. And throughout her career, she has maintained a proven track record. And one of the most important thing is she has been always striving for product innovation and defining new features. And she'll be all 3 of them will be taking over talking about the meet of the makers of Tableau. There are a lot of things they're covering. And then we have Swetha Bezawada, and she's a product manager at Tableau based in Fisher, United States. She's an experienced technology leader and data scientist with over 10 plus years of experience. One of the most one of the great thing what I saw here was she mentioned like she's a part data scientist and part product manager, and her strength lies in successfully translating the customer requirements to technical data driven solutions. And we are glad to have her here. And then we have Daniel Jewett, who is a vice president product management at Tableau based in Oregon, United States. And he's an experienced leader with 20 plus years of experience shaping the product capabilities at Tableau Software. And we're delighted to have all three of you here. And I'll just pass on the mic to you now. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge with us.
Hi, everyone. Dan Jewett here, and I'm going to kick us off and do some intros, some introductory material and things like that. Christina, are you sharing our slides, or do you want me to? Or
I sure can. Give me 1 second.
And I gave, I was remiss in getting a current bio update to Prasan. I think the bio he had said I was 20 years at Tableau. That's almost true. I've been at Tableau for 17 years. I was the first person to come in and kind of join and lead the product team way back in 2007. And then I'd been doing analytics, software products, and things like that for another 15 years prior to that. So I've been doing analytics in various ways, both as a practitioner at a company and then on the vendor side for sad to say over 30 years now. So the most relevant stuff for our conversation today, though, is all those years at Tableau. So Christina, let's click ahead. So excited that we started this Meet the Makers series last year. And it's been a great chance for us to have our product managers and sometimes our engineers join us and join on those calls to be able to talk about what it is we're building and have some conversations around why we did this and what's happening and how does it work and all those kind of things. Of course, a good Salesforce and Tableau event doesn't start with reminding you about forward-looking statements. We're going to perhaps talk about a few things that exist today and also talk about a few things that might not exist yet today that we're working on. So make any purchasing decisions based on what the products do today is kind of the essence of that real small print there. So on our product side, we've got a couple updates we want to do. Just some quick community updates that we want to give, and I'll give a couple minutes about Tableau innovation overall. And then the real stars of the show today are Christina and Obry, who will dive in, Christina and Swetha, who will dive in and talk about Pulse and Agent. And then we'll hopefully have time for some Q&A at the end. So let's jump ahead again. So here's the three community updates again. So let's talk about that. The community is really critical to us. We talk about them as the community sometimes, and we talk about them as the data fam in other ways. And it's really more, and we think about it more, and we hope you all feel the same way, that it's more than just, oh, we're a software vendor and we have people who paid to use our software or use our free Tableau public software, and they're customers to us, right? Our community, we feel, and try and treat them and do our best to make everyone really do feel like it's part of the data fam, right? We're in a journey together. We're all like-minded in how we think about data and analytics and how critical thinking and data evidenced thinking can change the world and move and solve the biggest problems that the world has. And our community spirit seems to embody all of those things as well. So we really try and lean in and be open and candid and embrace the community and the ideas and really leverage it, not just as us doing briefings, but the conversations we have with them. So we love the community, and we love events like this. Christina, let's click ahead. So our biggest community event of the year is the Tableau conference, and everybody coming together and meeting in person, and sessions and mingling and parties and breakfasts and fun runs at 6 a.m. in the morning. Like, all those things are wonderful parts of the Tableau conference. So that's coming up middle of April, April 15th to 17th in lovely California, San Diego. That's a great place to go at that time of year, because most of us have been living in places where it rains a lot or snows a lot, or you get a little bit more of the winter experience. So being able to go in April to San Diego is always very refreshing. So sign up, registrations are open. If you sign up now, there's a $600 discount on the registration fees and things like that. So check out the websites and the properties, and we would love to have all of you on the call, or as many of you as can make it, join us in San Diego. Let's click ahead, Christina. Next call about specifically for the community to learn about kind of an inside peek into what we're planning at the conference is coming up on the 24th. So just about a month from now. We'll have 2 sessions of that, 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. So kind of mark your calendars on that. And, think of it as we're going to reveal more details about what are the sessions going to be, what are the different ways to connect, and just give you some more information to guide your experience that you're going to have when you get to the conference, or help arm you up with some excitement around what's coming, so that way you can convince whoever approves your travel budget that it's an important thing to go to, and go ahead and get that approval done. So mark your calendar now. The next step is March 24th to attend one of those sessions if you want to learn a little bit more about what goes on at the conferences. User groups are another great way to involve yourself with others in your user groups always used to be a more in-person event, and then when the world changed and everything went virtual, we have lots of virtual user groups as well. So it's not just get together with your cohorts in your local city, which is great to do, or we have user groups that are company specific. If you've got a big Tableau deployment in a company, there's a user group at many companies that are specific for those employees. All those are great ways to stay connected with what's going on in the Tableau world. We encourage you, go visit the website, usergroups.tableau.com. Take a look at what's out there. There's so many virtual user groups out there now too. It makes it really easy to participate in a lot of different ways. And if you go to each of them, or many of them, like there's always unique things to learn. Like I drop in on some as often as I can. And even though I've been part of helping build Tableau all these years, I go in and I see what people are building and doing and talking about, and I'm always amazed. You always learn something, no matter how much you think you might already know. Or even better, you might be able to teach somebody something at one of those events, which is really what our community spirit's about. So a couple highlight ones coming up. The Tableau Buddy TUG, right? Talking about dashboards and map layers and accelerators and AI is tomorrow. Some more of the history of mapping and geospatial analytics. If you're not doing a lot with geospatial analytics, Tableau allows you to do some really amazing things. And there are so many clever people out there who have just pushed the boundaries to do amazing work on that front. So a couple other highlight items there, but check the website and see if there's any other user groups or topics at those user groups that you're interested in. It's a great way to learn a lot about that. And then, for years, we've had our ideas forum on our website, part of the community forums system that's out there, where you can ask questions and get questions answered by other members in the community. We had an ideas one where you could post your ideas, and Tableau and everybody else in the community could help vote on those ideas to express their interest in them as well. And all our Tableau product managers would look at those lists quite regularly, and we would use that to help guide our product planning and stuff. We're moving that system. So the ideas forum that we've had all these years has become a little crusty and hard to work with, and we had to kind of turn it off from accepting new posts because there were some spam issues and things like that. And what we've realized is Salesforce's Idea Exchange does exactly the same spirit of this. It's just a different system and implementation. So we're moving over to the Idea Exchange. The Idea Exchange is already there and open. So it's ideas.salesforce.com. We've already got 153 ideas have been posted up to the new Ideas Exchange. And we're working on moving all the old ideas forum ideas over to the new one. So they'll just all be in one place to look at and go in and do your voting and add new ideas. So we really encourage you to keep that conversation, part of the conversation, going with us through the Ideas Exchange. And we're absolutely committed on our side to keep looking through those things. It's not quite an order taking list, but we absolutely go through all those things and look at them and consider them and use them as input into our planning. All right, Christina, let's click ahead. Okay, so I wanted, before we dived into the real meat, but I'm going to go through this stuff really fast because we want to get to the real stars here. Just talk a little bit about the innovation journey we've been on at Tableau and how we're continuing to invest pretty heavily on that front. So as you know, we've been at this for quite a while. It's over 22 years now of helping people see and understand their data, right? All the way from Tableau desktop way back in the early days. And when we first dropped Tableau Server, Tableau Server came out late 2007, and I started mid 2007. Public and what we've done with cloud and prep to help people. You know, we heard loud and clear over the years from people that analytics is great, but getting my data to be ready for analytics was really hard. So we started doing things around prep and adding our data management capabilities and stuff. As we keep rolling forward on this journey, our latest innovations, kind of big step innovations, have been around, well, how do we help more than just the power analyst? And that's where we came in with Tableau Pulse. And then more recently, how do we take advantage of the next revolution in the world around AI and specifically generative AI? So what can we do to help on those fronts? And that's where our Tableau Agent product has come into play. So we'll talk about those last two specifically today. Tableau Analytics Platform, you guys probably all have seen or understand this, but it's a complete analytics platform. We do data management, we do data and asset distribution and security, and like it does everything you need out there. So we can click past this one, and then this one we're not going to dive into all those items on the list. That would be maybe a very long briefing that we could do for you someday. But just we continue to invest across everything in our portfolio. If we think about our portfolio, it's we have desktop. And we have authoring and experiences. People can create content in the web browsers as well. We have Tableau Cloud as an option for people to use. We have Tableau Server as an option for people to deploy. And we continue to invest across all of those fronts. And you can scan the list here real quick of just I kind of randomly picked a few top features that we've done over the last little while to try and show what's been happening in all those releases. But we really do think about it as we've got to add capabilities and give things that our customers and community want across that whole mix of the portfolio. So our commitment is there, and we definitely want to be investing across all fronts here. Let's go ahead and click ahead. Strategic priorities. So this is probably a marketing unauthorized slide. This was me adding a slide in the conversation that said, I get asked a lot, like, Dan, you're kind of leading the team here. What are your priorities for us in the next little bit, right? The next 12, 18 months or so. And for us, everything starts with customer success. We're really leaning in, and we've heard loud and clear that customers want more analytics from Tableau. Tableau is the analytics company, so they want more capabilities, and we're leaning in on that across everything we do, desktop, server, and cloud. We know lots of customers are wanting to move to cloud, and we're very committed to cloud excellence and making sure everybody has a wonderful experience there, whether it's trust or meeting your compliance issues or data sovereignty issues and regions and reducing latents and how you think about different data strategies in the cloud. We're very committed to all of those works as well. We know sometimes analytics can be hard, especially for new users getting started with things. The blank canvas problem is a real problem, and people, as everybody on this call probably knows, like you can do some amazing things with Tableau, but sometimes that first day or first week might be a little hard. So we're very much trying to focus on how can we simplify analytics and bring analytics to more people in the world, rather than just people with analyst in their title or something like that. So some of the initiatives that we're really focused on that to help with that front is Pulse and Agent, and that's what we're going to dive into here next. And then we also want to automate and innovate with AI. We know that that's a important change that's happening in the world everywhere. Our leading vectors on that front are also around Pulse and Agent. And then Tableau and Salesforce, right? We are investing in how do we make the Tableau experience run better within the Salesforce experience, right? Since we are part of the Salesforce mothership here. So we're doing lots of good things around that. At the conference, we'll be talking about that quite a bit more, Tableau Next. It's a journey, it's a portfolio, but those are our strategic priorities for what we're working on this year. Okay, let's bounce ahead. Let's click these next few. These were I'm going to give some commercials to some of the recent stuff that we're working on here. These are, you can maybe flash these in your eyes, but these might be great topics for future Meet the Makers that we do. So we could certainly love to, if there's interest in any of those things that we saw flash by real quick, we can talk about those. So the tee up for the next set. We've thought hard about Tableau's place in the world over the past few years, right? We kind of revolutionized the analyst experience, and we brought many more people into the world of being able to do their own analytics capabilities, right? Self-service analytics was really something that we brought to the world and brought to a lot of different people's eyes, and letting people work with data and ask and answer questions in any way to go there. What we've seen is that there's also a lot of people that maybe don't have the time during the day, or they don't have the interest, or maybe they're a little nervous about that ask and answer problem. Maybe they're a little more worried about doing something wrong or not understanding, and they're data phobic maybe a little bit or something, but they have an important need to understand what the data is telling them. So if we roughly internally, we kind of label those people business users, right? If your great divide in the world is you're an analyst or a business user, an analyst could be anybody, a hobbyist that's curious about data, but they're doing those analytic discovery tasks on their own. The business users are perhaps a little bit different. It's more important to be in the flow of work. It's more important to have trusted data that's delivered to them rather than exploring those data answers on their own. And then, of course, they work from that trusted data and those metrics and those starting points, and they might have more follow-up questions that they want to pull the thread on. So that's a little bit of the continuum that we're starting to lean in a little bit more on how we think about how our people get involved with data. Our set of products that we want to talk to you about today kind of skew a little bit on the business user side. So that's Pulse, and a new way to work with metrics and bring that to business users. And then Agent is a little bit of a help to bring those people getting started into the world of data and analytics, try and give them a better way to get into the environment that they then can ask and answer questions. So with that set up, let's jump over to Christina and Swetha, and I think Christina's going to kick us off first on Pulse. So Christina, you've got the ball.
Thank you, and thanks for setting the context here. Pleasure to meet everybody here. My name is Christina Obry. I've been with Tableau for about 3 years now, and I've been with Tableau Pulse since inception, and really happy to be here today to talk a little bit about what motivated us to build Tableau Pulse, what are kind of the problems that we're trying to solve, give you a bit more background, and then show you off how the tool works, and all of the kind of things that you may want to know from a technical and analyst perspective, but also talk a little bit about how you should think about getting started in your organizations to roll out Pulse use cases as well. So Dan's already said we're really after the business users, and I want to kind of emphasize a little bit more of these characteristics that these business users have. So we're really talking about people that are in marketing, service, finance, and sales, and people that are not the data rock stars, the ones, are really familiar with data. But we do see that those people would be proud to share information on their findings and engage with others. We do see that they do need to stay on track of what's happening in their data and in their job itself, but they're craving more than just the dashboards. They have questions that they're wanting to ask, but they also don't necessarily stick to a BI tool. And if they can't find the data, often they will just make a decision. It won't be a data-driven decision and probably not the smartest they could take, but they will just continue without data if we don't have an ability to easily bring data to them and bring that in. Dan talked a little bit about, time as well, and the emphasis that they have in order to dig and find data. Now, with that said, we looked at what makes analytics still too hard for those business users. And we ultimately found 4 different aspects on that. The first one is that it is hard to access. The business users are in the tools that they're using on a day-to-day life, which is tools that they're using in order to, for example, for Salesforce, directly in the tool. These are communication tools such as Slack, email, Teams, and so on. Analytics always have been somewhere else. So they have to leave where they're working and know where to find the information that they're looking for. So let's assume they've now understood that they're needing to log into another system. Well, they may have 20, 30, something dashboards to pick from, which one now is the one that I should trust? So really, information a lot of the times is still really hard for them to access. Let's assume they've now understood and found which dashboard to use. Sometimes the amount of data that there is and the visualization may be overwhelming for them and hard to understand of where do I really need to focus on. Which out of these many charts that is displayed to me is actually going to have that hidden insights that I need in order to make the best decision. And that can then be intimidating for somebody who isn't as savvy with data. And last but not least, it's really difficult to collaborate and take action from the tool because it's not in the tool that they're already working on and collaborating with others. So really, those are some of the challenges that we've seen those business users have when it comes to data. On the flip side, when we're looking at analytic professionals, the ones that are actually wanting to reach the business users and the masses, they kind of struggle a little bit for bringing some of the basic insights at scale because data changes so much, because the question changes so much that they're getting. It's sometimes really difficult for them to keep up to date with creating more and more information for the business users. So with that in mind, we thought about what can we do to reimagining the data experience? So what if we had an experience that allows a business user to receive a digest or an alert to get an update on metrics that they care about? An experience that then allows them to explore the details, dive deeper in understanding of what's happening. An experience that allows them to understand the why because there's automated key driver analysis provided to them. And more likely than not, all of that information that they've seen will spark additional questions. So how about we having an experience that also allows them to ask follow-up questions, to uncover those on-demand questions that they have in a conversational interface. And last but not least, the experience shall allow them to share and collaborate on those findings to really make data-driven decisions. And with that in mind, we really developed and released Tableau Pulse. It's about a year ago. So we just had our 1-year anniversary. And it's really there to reimagining of how analytics works for that business user to make it more personal, contextual, and intelligent. So let me go into a little bit more details of what I mean by that. When we're talking about Tableau Pulse being personalized, we're really looking at an ability for you to transform the outcome with metrics that matter to you as a business user. We're shifting from a paradigm that's a one-size-fits-all to really focusing around personalized metrics. Instead of somebody having to dig for information, the customers now have the ability to get guided metrics and insights that they can immediately understand and act on. Those metrics will contain essential information. What's the current value? How is it trending? How about the compared to different periods in time? You get a personalized homepage or digest that includes the information that you're following, the ones that you as a business user care about. And that is all front and center. However, you still have the ability to easily apply filter and explore around and follow additional metrics based on your needs. And then on the homepage, we're providing you with an insight summary, basically a headline of what's happening across all of those metrics in natural language. That allows you to direct the focus into what needs your attention of that day. Now, I said it's contextual. What does that mean? Well, we're helping customers by infusing the relevant data in their flow of work. With being proactive and bringing the data and insights to where the business user is already working, which is either Slack, email, Teams, or the web, Tableau Pulse meets them where they are and have everything in one place. And since the data is already in that collaboration tool, it's easy to discuss the data with others around it as well. Now, it's cross the application. We really get reliable view of the data, and that is because Pulse is built on standardized metric definitions that are part of a metric layer. They serve as a single source of truth, which means that we keep it consistent across downstream assets that we have. It also means that you can really trust the information as a business user of what you're basically looking at without having to investigate or challenge the information. That metric layer contains business context. It has information whether or not, for example, a metric increase is a good thing or a bad thing. And all of these things will help you to understand what's going on. And on top of all of that, Tableau Pulse is smart because it helps you to identify and communicate the insights by using AI. Tableau Pulse continues on that rich history that Tableau has with building augmented capabilities. By automating the analysis of the metrics and answering the most common business questions. The insights platform that we're having is actually doing the heavy lifting, right? It looks at hidden drivers, trends, contributor outliers, on any of the information that you follow in order for you to see if where is there potentially an unusual change. And then the metric detail page allows you to dive into really lots of information and get a comprehensive overview of your metric and explore further information. And last but not least, Tableau has a conversational experiences that helps the customers to explain their metrics on demand, engaging with ad hoc question in natural language. All of our insights are coming with a chart and a string and a text included in natural language to really make sure that you understand of what's going on. Now, we even recommend you some question because sometimes as a business user, it's not even clear of what should I ask of the data. And that's all that brings it in to make Tableau Pulse intelligent. Now, let's look at how everything comes together and look a little bit more at the three components that we have that power Tableau Pulse. We have a metric layer where the analytic professionals, which I believe are most of you, create and manage the metrics. As I said before, that's a single source of truth data model that enriches it with real world business context. So the enrichments are things that really power the insights and the analysis. Those are information such as an increase is a good thing, the unit of measures, what are relevant drivers, any related content that we're wanting to add. They're all critical piece of information that determine of how we present the information to the business user. And because metrics are defined on the data source level and not on a workbook, it also means that they can serve as a single source of truth. We actually, in fact, preventing you from creating two same definitions of the same data source in the system to avoid that duplication. Now, powered by that rich metadata is our insights platform, which allows us to do the analysis on uncovering hidden drivers, trends, contributors, outliers. What the insights platform does, it actually creates the factual observations into true insights that a business user can easily understand and act on. Those are a combination of visualization and natural language that really help to explain what's going on. And last but not least, we have the next generation experiences. Those insights are going to be presented to the business user in their flow of work. And that can be, as I said, Slack, email, the phone being very popular on this as well. We integrated with Teams. So really bring that new experience, easy to use, into the flow of work, making it easy to consume. Now, we have AI across the entire system as well. When we're thinking about the metric layer, you can actually bootstrap that metric layer based on your existing dashboards. And I'll show you some of that in a little bit. The Insight platform uses generative AI to synthesize the multiple insight into a cohesive summary that sounds natural language and even has the language of the business domain. Now, I want to be really stretching that it is important that the Insight platform is tested and deterministic. So any of the numbers that you see, any of the dimensions and all the analytical pieces, those ones are coming from deterministic calculations. What we're using generative AI is to take those facts and bring them into an easy to read format for that business users. We're continuously checking that the generative AI did not actually change any of the facts that we have. And for the next generation platform or experience, generative AI is supported in terms of that conversational experience where you can ask questions and interact with the data in natural language. Now, before I'm going to show you a demo, I actually want to talk a little bit about what makes that metric layer scalable and customizable here. So it is scalable and customizable because there's a relationship between what we call the metric definition and the related metric. Now think about the metric definition as almost the, metadata of what makes your metric. So we are building on top of a published data source. That also means that we're taking advantage of any of your row-level security and security that you have on the platform. And as part of the metric definition, you're specifying a set of metadata. What's the measure that you're using? What's the aggregation that you're using? We use a time dimension that we need in order to compare. So you specify that. Any additional time configuration, what do we compare to? Previous period, previous year, things like that are added into it. You're adding related dimensions that allow you to meaningfully break down the metrics and drive the insights. That doesn't mean any definition or any dimension out of your data source. You selectively use the ones that are going to be more meaningful to the business user. And then there's additional metadata and relationships that we're wanting to add in. As I said, is an increase a good thing or a bad thing? Pointing to other analytical artifacts. Maybe you have a dashboard to follow up on a few other things. So all of that information is one common definition that is the same for every single metric itself. This is a trusted information that's created by the analyst. Now, on top of those definitions sit the metrics, and the two information that are additional to the definition is a time context as well as a filter. So you can have additional time context such as months to date, year to date, and so on. You can set up filters, for example, what are the products or regions that you're wanting to look at? And then individual users are following those metrics. The metrics then consist, based on the time and filter context, of a metric value, the sparkline, the trends, performance over time, and things like that. It includes the insights that are the aha moment for users to really see what's going on. Now, as I said, with applying filters and changing the time context, a business user can choose what they're following and choose their slice of dice of information without changing anything on the definition. Now, you as an analyst have the ability, if you ever needed to update the definition, you could do so, and it automatically applies to all of the metrics. Give you an example. Maybe you enhance your data source to have an additional dimension that you wanted to expose. You could do that. Change that in the definition, and it becomes available for any of the metrics to be run insights on or be filtered on. Or we just recently released data source goals. You could add data source goals to the definition, and it will automatically propagate down to any of the metrics. And that's really what makes it scalable and highly customizable. Now, I talked a lot, so I'm going to stop here for a second, switch gears, and show you what this will look like. My plan is to show you two different things. The first thing that I'm going to show you is the aspect from a business user perspective. And then I'm going to show you what does it mean for us analysts. So give me just a second to set up and stop sharing here and share the new screen. Give me one second here. All right. So now we tried this sharing earlier on. If you only see half a phone, then there is a little icon in the corner of the screen. If you click on that one, I believe you see the entire phone. Can I get a confirmation on that?
Yes, that will work. And now we see anyway your entire screen.
What do you mean you see my entire screen?
I see your entire phone screen myself.
Okay, the entire phone screen. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Thank you.
Don't move
I hope
anything.
everybody else as well. Otherwise, it will be an underwhelming demo here. So bear with me for a second. In this demo, again, I'm a business user for a minute, and I'm a pharma sales executive. Right? So think about some of the things that I care about in my business. I obviously care about my pharma sales and how I'm doing from a market share perspective, but I also have a team to run. So I care about my workforce, and I care about, the hiring and things like that. Because I'm always busy and on the go, my preferred method of interacting with my data is the mobile app and the phone. So I start my day in Tableau mobile app. So if you haven't used the Tableau mobile app in Pulse, so this is the regular app. At the bottom here, you see Tableau Pulse. You can actually make that your default screen too if you're somebody who often comes back into Pulse. So the very first thing that you see here is that I'm actually greeted with my daily insight summary. So it says, last month, the average days to fill the position is remarkably high at 86 days. That's really, really high. Probably not the best for my business, so I'll have to probably look into that at some point. And then it talks about the monthly spikes, how we've spiked in prescription sales, so that's pretty good, and the market share information as well. So that summary really looks across all of the metrics that I have and highlights the most important things for me, and that changes on a day-to-day basis. Now, I can also scroll down and see all of the information together. You can see that my homepage here is actually grouped around the different data sources that I have. So we have the HR force, and then we have our pharma sales in here. But it makes it very easy to get all the information in one glance on the mobile device. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually wanting to focus on my pharma sales because I'm about to step into a meeting to understand a little bit more. And you can see here, full disclaimer, I should have said that before, I'm going to show you a few things that have not yet been released, but are about to roll out relatively soon. And this next feature is one of those ones, and also it will be part of the Tableau Plus license, but that's the only thing that I think I'm showing you today that's not yet released. So it has an option here to explore a little bit more, and I do want to do so. So I'm going to go and explore. What it gives me a suggestion. So it looks over the metrics that are in this group and gives me a suggestion. Yeah, I do want to look at what happened throughout the last months. So now it looks at all of those metrics that were part of the group and creates me an insight brief, an easy for me to understand sentence of what's happening. So we already knew from the insight summary that the prescription has increased, so that's good. I now know it's increased by 2.1%, but it also tells me that the market shares actually remained stable. So that's interesting information. As I scroll down, I can also see the metrics that are part of that group, which gives me a bit of a trust thing that I understand of what's happening here. I'm going to collapse that. And you can see that we have more suggestions. All of these suggestions are auto-generated using LLM. And right now, that's not what I'm actually looking for, so that's okay. I can also ask my own question. And because I'm on a phone, I'm actually going to just dictate my question. Did we see an increase in market shares in the same states as we saw an increase in prescriptions? So you can see that I can easily ask my question. Now, you may have noticed that I have an accent. So my dictation didn't actually understand that I was looking for market shares. It's looking for the chairs you sit on, but that's okay. We still have the ability to find information. So it says here that there is no significant increase, and these change over time, the insights that we're getting. So we're really wanting to look a little bit more into the states. So let's try this and say, can you tell me more about states? So we're now asking the insights brief here for additional information. So now it's actually coming back with the information that it tells me, okay, we have California, New York, and Texas that were the top states, but we're actually seeing that the market shares itself were coming from other states. So that's interesting as well. Well, I have more questions. So I'm going to ask one more question. Tell me more about prescriptions and maybe what type and what providers made a difference. So you can see that I, as a business user, ask very natural language questions that are coming in, and it's really working to give me an insights brief. So we says here, okay, in description, prescriptions increased, so that's great. And then it tells me about the new prescriptions actually increased by quite a bit. And then it tells me about the top providers, exactly the information that I asked for. Now, each of those ones is actually accompanied by what we call references. So you can click on the references and now understand of where that information came from. So we can see here it came from the prescription metrics. It tells me what had the increase, and we can see that, yes, Your prescriptions had the highest increase. Well, I actually want to dive a little bit deeper into this. So now I'm on the Insight Exploration page. This is the same page that I could have gotten to if I just clicked on the metrics on the home page. All of the information is here. So first of all, we get more information. We see that we have 3 days left, but we're quite a bit away from our goal, so we probably need to do some actions. We have the same information with regards to the trends, and yes, we've seen an upwards trend, but it probably isn't enough. Well, let me move into what we call the breakdown chart. Here I get all the information based on those dimensions that we had. And I can actually see, yes, we saw that new prescription increase, but refills is actually behind months over months. And having that information and that insights very easily displayed is very interesting to me. Well, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into the refills here as well. So we can see here again of how they're performing. We can see that they're under the goal, and you also see that the goal value is dynamically created because it comes from the data source as well. At the bottom here, I can see that there is additional questions and additional insights. So for each of those metrics and the filter context and time context that we're looking at, we're running insights. And so we have the ability here to give some questions pre-subscribed for the business user. They will change based on what we detect in your data, right? But that's just to help the business user of what they can ask for. Well, I actually wanted to ask a different question here. Is there a sales rep that underperformed? So you can see here that I asked my question for somebody who's underperformed, and it suggests me that, well, maybe I should look at who decreased the most. So I'm going to look at that. I can see that Logan is the one that decreased the most. I probably also want to follow up with Rachel. And by the way, if you ever think that this isn't readable, you can easily also flip the phone around and see a little bit more of your charts. Well, I have now found a lot of information in that. I see that we're a little bit off goal. We have 3 days left. I see that we're not on track months over months with regards to our prescriptions and the refills. And I'm going to follow up with Rachel and Logan on what they've done. So few things that I want to do is I'm going to go and message directly from the mobile app using either Slack or Teams or other messaging capabilities with those two and asking them to find out a little bit more. I also wanting to follow this and stay up to date. So I'm going to actually follow this particular metric. And so when I come back onto my homepage, you can now see that I have that additional metric that I've just chosen, the ones for refill. I'm following that one as well. And so tomorrow when I come back, that may be considered for my insight summary. But this is how easy it was for me as a business user, just from the phone, to find out information and follow up with the people that potentially can help me resolve and meet my goal. So that was the demo that I had prepared for the business user side. And I know you're very curious, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit and show you what that means from an analyst perspective and what I potentially have to consider. So give me just 1 second to swap my screen. Quick confirmation that you can see now my screen again. Nope, something, or maybe. You're back on the demo slide, correct?
Yes, we can see demo now.
Okay, awesome. Good. So now I'm in Tableau Cloud on the web experience. This is my homepage. You can see that there is an entry point for Tableau Pulse. The same capability that I've just shown you on the phone, of course, is also available on the web, right? So I still have all of my metrics, my workforce metrics, my refill metric, my prescription metrics, including the one that I've just followed here. And you can see that anybody who's creator or explorer can publish actually gets what we call a metric definition. I'm going to show you quickly on an existing definition of what that means with regards to creating one of those metric definitions. So first thing is you choose your published data source, right? So in this case, my pharma sales, you give it a name. recently released, we added the ability for you to add additional links. So, and I'm going to show you this in just a second as well. I actually have a detailed dashboard. Sometimes Pulse doesn't answer all of the questions. Sometimes you're wanting to go to a dashboard that has more information. You can tie these two things together and allow somebody to navigate for additional information into either a dashboard, or maybe you have a help page, or maybe you have an external tool where they can kind of look into this. You have the ability to add those links in there as well. You can add some permissions on who can modify the metric or not the metric, the definition, sorry, and then some of the goals. Now, the really heart of the metric is really the value and how things are being created. So based off your data source, you can pick any of the measure or dimension. You pick the aggregation type, and that one obviously changes depending on what you select. You choose the visualization of your or the representation of your overview chart into running total, or if you wanted daily ones, you could do this as well. But for something like sales, running total is probably the best one. And if needed, you can define some what we call definitional filters. So definitional filters are really filters that nobody can change other than the person that is editing the definitions. And that's important in case sometimes information is changed, or the meaning of a metric can change. So open opportunities would, for example, be an increase, but closed opportunities or failed opportunities or non-one would have a different meaning from a definition perspective. You specify your time dimension. There's a few advanced settings that you have, your time comparison, and then you add the filters, or not the filters, the dimensions that you want to expose as filtering. So you can see that all of these ones are provided here from a filtering perspective. Some information with regards to the currency. If you have something just from a best practice perspective that is just a regular number, it actually helps to still specify the unit, because it makes the text that the insights bring so much better. So if you're counting something in days, you have the ability to specify that as well. Recently released, you can add a goal into this. So these goals coming from the data sources, they're highly flexible, because now as I'm changing filters and anything else, I actually see always a goal as well. And last but not least, you get some information on insight configuration. Again, is an increase a good thing or a bad thing? And then we have some configuration on these insights, so you can choose to turn them on, or by default, all of them are on, or you can choose to turn them off. That depends a little bit on your use case. So for example, we had a customer who was looking at incidents, and they did not want the expected range on the homepage or on the metric card, because that looks as historical data, well, and they don't expect you to have any incidents, so they wanted to take that off. So those are some of the reasons why you may want to choose to turn certain insights off if they're confusing your business users. Now, Pulse is powered by the insights that we have, so we don't recommend to turning off too many. Anyhow, you can see that these simple steps is all I needed to create what we call the metric definition. So I can save this here. And now I'm on that insight exploration page, the same one that I had shown you on the web. Now, and here's all my information. You can see here is the detailed dashboards at the bottom. I can then go ahead and change. For example, I wanted to look at quarter to date. And I can basically also look at, well, who did we say didn't do well? Let's look for Logan, right? So I can easily change this information and now see how Logan is doing, get all of that information, and I can choose to follow. I can also add anybody else as a follower. So if I wanted to add my colleague Dan, I could easily do this. You can also add user groups for it. So if you have a specific user group that you wanted to do that, you can do that as well. That is how easy it is to create another metrics on top of that definition. Now, if I wanted to see all of the metrics that belong to that definition, I can easily see that in this screen, right? And I can see of how many followers there are. And that sometimes, even from a business user perspective, helps me to see of what can I trust. Let me just quickly go back. Oops, that's the wrong, hang on. Okay, let me go back into here. So That is, as I said, how easy it was to create the definitions on top of it. I also have the ability to link to dashboards, and I just wanted to quickly show you this specific dashboard. In here, I actually can embed some of those metric cards into my dashboard. So just give it a second to load here. These metrics up top are the same metrics that I saw on the homepage. So you do have the ability to tie these ones together, easily have the ability to click on here and end up in those metrics as well. The other thing that we can do from an analyst perspective, if you have the right to create metric definitions, well, you can go into the data guide. And as you're selecting some of the visualizations, we will try to find whether or not there is a metrics that we can recommend you to create, really bootstrap that experience, right? So in this case here, we can see that this visualization includes sales rep products as well as our sales, and it recommends that one. If I click on this other visualization over here, you can see that that includes time as well. So we have a little bit more context, and it actually already tells me that, well, we can bring in the time as well. So if I'm clicking on this particular one as a recommendation, what happens is that I'm landing now in that metric definition. The data source is automatically created. We actually see the measure that was selected, and the time dimension is already added into as well. So let me just quickly add that one filter in here, because and then add one of the things that I'm wanting to bring in here. If I'm now trying to save, ignore that I didn't give it a name, but it actually tells me that an identical definition has already been created. Now, this is the single source of truth that I said. So that definition that we talked about early on already exists, and the product knows that. So we're going to prevent you from creating the same definition again and guide you to where that definition is. You can, if you have the right, do any modification to that definition or start following any of the metrics. So that's kind of a little bit the behind the scene and some of the things that you as an analyst want to think about as you're creating those metrics and empowering that business user experience. So let me go back and show you a little bit of what we do internally with some of the metrics as well and Pulse. Well, for us, Pulse brings the data to life. And in the example here from our marketing teams, they're actually using a variety of different metrics to monitor their business. From product marketing that looks at content performance, from event registration, here you can see this is last year's TC registration. I've already seen this year's TC registration with goals and everything else being tracked as well. They're looking at understanding the web traffic and the conversations, campaign, and field marketing impact as well. So that's one department. But Pulse doesn't just look at one department at all. It also has the ability to bring our leaders closer together and really focusing around some of the shared metrics. So for example, we do have marketing and sales specific metrics, but they do have shared metrics such as pipe gen, quarterly commit coverage, and things like that. By being on the single source of truth and trusted accurate data, it allows our both marketing and sales to come together and collaborate on those shared metrics and seeing of how their metrics contribute to the other ones. Now, think you may wonder of like, well, how do I get started? What are some of the things that I should think about as I'm trying to approach Pulse? Because there's a few differences with regards to Pulse and use cases compared to dashboards. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the information that we have with regards to Pulse and the customer journey. We just crossed our 1 year mark, so we've learned a lot over that 1 year, and customers who followed those 4 steps or 4 areas are the ones that are most successful with it. So the first thing when you're wanting to get started with Pulse is really look at a use case and data identification. Work with the business users, the ones that need that information together to understand what the critical KPIs are that they need to track. And here's the important thing. Need to track is what's important. Pulse is moving time along. It's meant for monitoring purposes for people who need updates information at least once a week, if not daily. If you have data that only updates once a month, it's probably not the prime candidate use case for Tableau Pulse, because of that dynamicness that we're wanting to bring in. So really focus on information that is trackable that you want to monitor. Determine the business requirements and the data sources that are needed for those KPIs. So really understand of what are you needing for, what are the things that are coming in, but also with that, think about data source best practices. Now, I'll give you a very simple example. You're looking at a tool, and I think Agent will be relatively similar, where you want business users to interact with the data. That means that dimensions that are, for example, a Boolean are not a prime candidate. While from a dashboard design and analytic perspective, using Boolean dimensions are a very common tool, when you put that into a sentence that a business user should read, it doesn't actually help you. When you're saying something true went up 50%, right? Because of that's how the filterings are done. So what we've seen in the past that we had to kind of give guidance to is like, well, turn that Boolean dimension into something more meaningful for the business user. Right? In an HR case, is this person a manager or not? Not true or false. Manager, non-manager. Just easy dimension members to understand will make a huge impact on the satisfactions that your business users are going to have. You can also have a look over the data sources and how they're used today. So just wanting to map back here on our Exchange, there is a data source manager for Tableau. There's a variety of information for you to see of like which are the data sources that are most used and probably most common for you to go in. So let's assume you have your use case and identification. We're really looking at metric development, turning on Tableau AI as part of our trust and everything else. Any AI feature has to be enabled by the administrator. So you do have to, if you want the insight summary and some of this information, you do have to turn that on a site basis. Create those metric definitions, just I've just shown you. Use the recommendations from the dashboard to get kickstarted as well. Those are some of the things that you can do from a metric development perspective. And then you're moving into rollout. So we see that at least for the first set of metrics, pre-subscribe your followers, right? So add user groups and subscribe people to the user groups or add them individually into this as well is the easiest way to get the first followers onto your metrics. And then encourage your users by exploring those metrics, applying additional filters, set up their digest preferences, right? Do they want it daily? Do they want it weekly in email and Slack? And then help them get started on the mobile device as well. And now you've done all of the things, you wonder like, well, how is Pulse actually being used? Who's creating those metric definitions? Who is following what? We're integrated into the admin insight. So you want to make sure that you're tracking your information. And to get you started, again, on Exchange, there's actually a Pulse adoption dashboard that you can use and easily point to your admin insights to get the information that you desire. And those are the 4 steps and phases that we've seen customers have the most success in deploying Tableau Pulse. And I hope you enjoyed all of that. And I give you over to Swetha, who's going to tell you a little bit more about Tableau Agent.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina. That was great. I still don't see the access to share my screen.
Oh, sorry. I stopped sharing. I think now you got it. Is that correct?
Believe so, yes.
Awesome.
You should all be able to see my screen now. Yes?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Swetha Bezawada, one of the product managers working on Tableau Agent. Been with Tableau for about 3 years now. I did start off as a data scientist, but I'm now a full-time product manager. Note to self, I need to update my bio there. Again, I've been in the data and analytics space for about 10 years under various capacities. And I'm happy to talk about Agent. Pulse was our first major AI product that we were focusing on, Tableau Agent being the other in the data analytics space. If you look at the current scenario, our analysts are outnumbered by the number of consumers that they serve. They are also distracted by the ever-changing number of asks and also the massive volume of ad hoc requests that these data consumers come to you as analysts with. So how do we enable you analysts be more productive? And how do we enable these data consumers to be more self-sufficient so they can take better data-driven decision-making? That is where Tableau Agent comes into play. So Tableau Agent is an AI assistant that will enable data consumers to ask those deeper questions, those ad hoc questions, and get responses, enabling self-sufficiency. While for the analysts, it's all about driving proficiency and productivity, helping you across your crucial analytical tasks, ranging from data preparation, exploration to data content creation. And of course, all of this is backed by our Einstein Trust Layer, which you might know is the robust set of features and guardrails that we have at Salesforce to ensure no data that is being sent to the LLM is used for model fine-tuning or training internal or outside of the Tableau Salesforce ecosystem. This is the trust layer that also gives you other goodies like hallucination mitigation, toxicity detection, PII masking, and so on. Tableau Agent, we went GA mid last year, and people with Tableau Explorer and Creator license roles can now explore data and create visualizations by using the chat interface. Know that Tableau Agent is available as a part of the Tableau Plus SKU. If you start looking at who is this analytics agent for, Tableau Agent really is meant for analysts regardless of your expertise level. However, in the near real time, and folks who have the title analysts in their job title, or folks who are proficient in one or other BI tools but are quite novice to Tableau will benefit from having Tableau Agent as their mentor. We have also seen experienced data analysts leverage Agent to building custom or complex calculations. You typically tend to swivel chair across community articles and Googles to say, how do I nest an LOD into a table calc or so on? Engage Tableau Agent for these tasks. And of course, to the other end of the spectrum, we also have these strategic business managers who have plethora of dashboards serving them, but they do have these one-off ad hoc questions that they're looking to self-serve. Again, Agent can help them get to their data-driven insight. We want to make these self-service analysis easy for everyone with Tableau Agent. To achieve this, we have Agent across the spectrum. We have Agent across the crucial analyst workflow, starting from Agent in prep. As you prepare your data for your exploratory analysis, you can leverage Agent to create calculated fields using natural language. If you are new to Tableau, learning the syntax is like learning a new language, and you can engage Agent to help you out with this. You can also leverage the power of LLMs to provide text descriptions of your workbooks, data sources, and you know that properly augmenting these resources with descriptions is best practice, but often this is the first task that gets skipped when users are pressed for time. And of course, Agent is also available in web authoring to help you with your data analysis needs. Engage with the chat interface to create visualizations or create calculations, or even if you're engaging with Agent on a pre-existing workbook, have Agent describe what a pre-computed calculation entails, or have it update an existing calculation. Agent also has the suggestions feature that Christina showed, and this is where if this is a brand new data source, you're not really sure what analysis to do, how to go about this, leverage the suggestions option to overcome the blank slate problem. How do I go about what analysis can I do on this specific data set? With that, I will quickly go into a demo of Agent in the current state. You are able to see my screen? Good.
Yes, we are.
Awesome. So as you can see, Agent is on the top right corner. I've pulled up Agent, accepted the generative AI advisory statement, and right off the bat, you can see Agent has some suggestions for me, which I can trigger, or I can ask a question of my own. So I'm just going to ask Agent a question on how do my volume of orders vary by the day of week. Now, as soon as you input this question, Agent determines what is the intent of this user. Are they trying to create a whiz? Are they trying to update an existing whiz? Or is it creating a calc or what have you? Agent then chunks up that utterance and then determines, okay, what are the respective fields from this data source that I need to use for this visualization? And then the LLM generates the response, which is then rendered on what you see on the screen. Notice that I did not use the exact field names. In my data source, day of week is represented as DOW, but Agent was smart enough to understand and get the right fields and the right aggregations to use. Similar to what you see with ChatGPTs, if you're not quite satisfied with the response from Agent, you can trigger another response with the retry option, which re-engages Agent to reflect on its current response and come back with an alternate. You can also engage the suggestions option here that would have an agent reflect on the current context of the WIS. So right now the user is viewing order volumes by day of week. How else, based on the context of this data source, how else can I enable this user to dig deeper? These are all some of the features that you can leverage as you're going about your analysis. I quickly want to point out the fact that agent, though it has the context of your data source field names and field values, it will not change your data schema. Meaning, let's say you have a field called year, which is an integer with, let's say, values ranging from 1990s to 2025, and you want to do time series analysis. Agent is not going to change the integer date value in data type into a datetime field so you can do these trend lines. It is upon the user, it is upon the creator to ensure that the right data types and the roles are set for these fields, including right field descriptions. This is all good context for agent to leverage and help make determinations of which fields do I choose. And again, agent also leverages row level security. So if you as a user do not have access to certain fields, agent also will not be able to consume those records. We've seen retry at play. I'm going to hit suggestions just to see what suggestions agent comes back with in the context of this query. But another thing besides visualizations that you could also leverage is use agent to create calculations. Before I jump into showcasing how agent creates calculations, one thing I do want to call out is agent has all the chart history that you see on this right scrolling bar is all within the agent's context. So as you're doing your analysis, let's say you've done your analysis from a finance point of view, and you're now pivoting the same data source analysis to, let's say, from a marketing point of view, and you do not want agent to carry over this context history, it is recommended that you start over this analysis on a new tab. So when you start over, from every session that you start on a new tab is a new context history to itself. So now I'll showcase the create calc skill. So I'm asking agent to compute the average basket size per order. And again, it's the same pipeline that's happening behind the scenes. It's recognizing the intent. It is determining the right feature, the variables to use, and then going about rendering the calculation for me. So in this case, it gave me a fixed LOD, which is what I had in mind. Notice that agent also named the calc for me. And if I hit apply or OK, this new variable is indexed in the data schema for me to use downstream in my visualizations. You can also, as I've mentioned before, you can also use agent to look at pre-existing calculations and have agent say, describe this calc. Or, hey, this calc was already created. Can you update this calc to also account for X, Y, and Z, and so on. So now I'm going to ask agent a follow-up question. How do these items per order vary by day of week and hour of day? While agent is bringing up this scenario, I do want to call out that some of the best practices are trying to be as explicit as you can in your intent. There are certain examples like rank sales by state. Now, agent can technically render a bar chart and then sort them in descending order, or create a calculated field to compute the rank, both of which could be interpreted to be valid solutions. So if you as the user know what you were after, go ahead and be more explicit about it. So agent gave me a trend line chart. You can, if you're not quite satisfied, you could either hit retry, or you can have agent engage, say, I'm going to ask agent, how else can you visualize this? Let's see what agent comes back with. There are another cool feature that I will showcase downstream is, and one of the most common questions that we keep hearing from our customers is, how do you build trust? How do I trust the results from agent? And this is where I want to say we are building disambiguation, and you'll only see more and more of this disambiguation at play. And one thing so let's say an example of disambiguation is, let's say I ask agent, show the orders for the order line. I know that in my data set, this specific parameter or value of order doesn't exist. So if agent is unable to find a particular value, instead of hallucinating, it comes back and says, hey, I was not able to find this value, but you as the authoritative figure on this, of this data source, can you help find it? So obviously, when I hit order, that value does not exist in my data source. But if I look for other values, there you go. You could select the relevant values that you're looking for, and then the WIS gets updated for how you need. So agent will, in this context, this is filter disambiguation at play. We'll also have more of these disambiguation contexts in scenarios like, let's say you ask a question of agent, show me who my best salesperson are. Now, best could be determined based on the survey scores, based on the sales volume that this salesperson had, or maybe the order volume, or maybe the profits. So this is where agent today will bias to action and pick a measure on your behalf. But this is where we'll also introduce more of disambiguation to say, hey, I can do this across these 3 parameter measures. Which one do you want me to go about using? Or in the interim, we do recommend that you as the user be more explicit in your intent. So that's this is agent in its current state in a nutshell. Let me go back. To our demo slide. So, as mentioned, we went GA mid last year, and we've been extensively listening to our customers, feedback from our community as we refine and expand the skill set. And as we are refining and expanding the skills of agent, the investments that we've made can broadly be classified into 3 pillars. One is better support for the business users. This has been the most consistent request we've had time and time over again. Business users want the capability to understand what's happening in this complex dashboards. These business users want to have the capability to ask ad hoc Q&A on these said dashboards. How can agent enable these users? The second pillar would be the foundational pillar, where we want to see deeper integration of agent into the platform. Besides other opinionated tooling, Tableau Agent is our version of how we've built out Tableau Agent leveraging LLMs. But we've also had certain customers who are also building their own custom GPTs and want to leverage the underlying Tableau data sources that they've put massive energy and effort into building out. So how can they leverage these underlying Tableau data sources to build their own custom agents, if you will? So that's pillar 2, that's foundational. And with respect to pillar 3, that is, how do we take what was demoed earlier to a whole new level for data professionals? The ability to perform more complex visualizations. How do we improve the quality of life for these professionals by teaching agent how to do those tasks that the data fam doesn't quite enjoy doing, but is absolutely necessary? Things like formatting dashboards or doing those administrative tasks. So with that, I'm happy to announce that as a part of the 25.1 release, we'll now have Tableau Agent in desktop. So this is more to the foundational pillar that we were just speaking about, deeper integration into the platform. We've heard it time and time again from our analyst community that you prefer Tableau desktop, when it comes to creating dashboards, modifying existing workbooks, or doing ad hoc analysis. So Agent is now available on desktop to help you with your calculations, rendering visualizations, or even suggesting questions to help you dig deeper into this data. Once the 25.1 desktop build is released, make sure, download the latest build, connect to a Tableau cloud site that has Agent enabled, and you should be able to engage with Agent without any additional site settings necessary. You've also seen suggestions at play. And again, to quickly recap, suggestions are these AI-powered recommendations to help users explore their data by giving you relevant guided questions in the context, based on the current context. And as a part of this 25.1 release, we are now expanding the scope of these suggested questions to also account for calculations, meaning the calculations Tableau agent created. It can also surface additional questions based on the context of this calc to say, how can you leverage this calculated field to explore your data better? Additionally, if a visualization fails to render, agent will offer alternate suggested questions based on the requested fields, guiding users through those insights, even when the initial visualization attempt was unsuccessful. And again, for this feature, no additional site settings are required. We've also had this request come in a couple of times. Multilingual agent support. So today, if you look at the current agent experience, even if your user settings is in a language that is not English, agents' responses are always in English. So this is where, as a part of the 25.1 release, we will have multilingual agent support in French, Italian, German, Spanish, Japanese, and Portuguese. So I'll quickly stop here and give you a quick demo of these features that are coming as a part of the 25.1 release. Let me know, can you hear the audio from this tab?
No, we cannot hear the audio. Or at least I cannot.
Okay, let me see if I can reshare this again. The agent is now available on desktop. Good. So analysts who prefer using Tableau Desktop when creating new dashboards from scratch, making major changes to a published dashboard, or doing ad hoc analysis can now use Tableau Agent to create quizzes and calculated fields in desktop. So I have on my screen here the latest build of Tableau Desktop that I've downloaded, and I've already connected to the cloud site from the server option up top. Once connected, you should see the agent icon activated on the worksheet. Select the generative AI advisory statement, and you can start engaging with Tableau Agent. Here, I've asked agent to create a calc to classify orders based on the order purchase date into a first purchase or a repeat purchase. And agent has written an LOD calc that'll do just the job. I'll quickly stop here. So what you're seeing is the new inline calc functionality, which was quite different from what I demoed earlier. So this will be the latest and the greatest calc function experience as you engage with agent henceforth. So selecting apply, you can see the data schemas updated with the new calc that it just created. Another feature we discussed earlier was the follow-up suggestions. So after creating or modifying a calculation using Tableau Agent, agent will also suggest calculations on how you can leverage these pre-built or calcs built in the prior step for downstream analysis. So in this case, it suggested questions along what is the trend of the first purchase and repeat orders over time, or what have you. Agent also will suggest these questions in cases where agent is not able to render a valid viz. Another feature coming as part of this release is localization, multilingual agent support. So agent today will respond in English, even if your site settings are set in, let's say, other languages like German or Korean. And you can ask your question in these different languages, but the responses from agent will always be in English. So coming as a part of this release, we now support conversational analytics in French, Italian, German, Spanish, Japanese, and Portuguese, offering a more consistent user experience. You can change the language settings from the help menu on the desktop option here, or I'm going to show this in clouds settings, where you could go to the user cloud site, where you can go to the user settings and change your language of your choice. I've already set this to Italian and saved the settings. So when I spin up a new workbook, and you can see the welcome response from agent is in Italian, and I'm now going to ask agent a question. In Italian, which translates to what are my underperforming subcategories, and you should see agent respond in the said language as well. A note here that these languages chosen are based on the languages supported by our trust layer. The trust layer, as you know, is the robust set of features and guardrails that we have to protect the privacy and security of your data and ensure safe, responsible use of AI. With the trust layer, you get features like toxicity detection, zero data retention, and so on. So the languages that we support today as a part of this release are dependent on the languages that are supported at the trust layer. Thank you. Awesome. So let's. The agent is now available on desktop. This is not. There we go. So what you've seen so far are the features we're working on, we're shipping as a part of the 25.1 release that's rolling out right now as I speak. What I'll be presenting henceforth are a sneak peek into a couple of features that are coming out in the April-May timeframe. So going back to the 3 broad pillars, we saw one of the very first pillars was we need agent for the business user persona. Taking a step back, complex dashboards with multiple visualizations and intricate data relationships can overwhelm viewers, making it difficult for them to synthesize what the key takeaways are here. So as a part of this release, viewers can now ask agent for a summary of the dashboard insights and a narrative summary summarizing the key takeaways of here are the key trends, here are the spikes and outliers, and so on, will be presented for these viewers to consume. So essentially what's happening under the hood is agent will mine the dashboards for insights that are already visually explicitly presented, but they will now also have supportive text alongside these visuals in the dashboard, making this consumption experience better. So this is now a hybrid experience between the visual and text. We'll follow this up with a dashboard Q&A experience as well. We've known that a lot of our data professionals, they get sidetracked and spend a good portion of the time answering ad hoc questions from their business users they support. So for example, we've heard, hey, this dashboard shows me the total monthly sales, but I need to see this, only quarter to date. Or this dashboard shows me the top, ranks all my sales by state, but I want to see the top states per this category. How do I go about this? So this is where, with this ad hoc Q&A experience, this unlocks our business users to be more self-sufficient, enabling our analysts to be more productive and more focused on the deeper work that they're doing. And also coming as a part of the April-May release is this improved agent skill improvements. So this falls in the third pillar that I was talking about with respect to analyst productivity. If you look at the agent interaction today, it is upon that user to manually decompose a complex task into the required intermediate steps needed to get to their insight. An example I like to give is, in agent today, you cannot explicitly ask show running total of sales, but you need to know the Tableau language and say, okay, create a running total of sales, visualize this, as a trend line or what have you on a Wiz. So this is actually a tall order or a steep learning curve for users to decompose and understand how to go about doing this. So this is where, as a part of this April or May release, agent will take on this onus, reason on the ask, list out the steps in the right sequence, get the approval from you as the user, and then execute. So it's making your life as a novice analyst or even an advanced analyst easier. For this, I do have a quick demo that I'll talk through. So in this, ignore the multi-step prefix. This is very much a work in development, so that hence the need for a prefix. But here I've asked, how does the order volume differ between weekdays and weekends? And of course, this is not a field. The weekdays and weekends is not something that exists in my data set. So agent comes back with a plan to say, hey, to answer your question, here's what I propose we do. I'm going to create a calculated field using whatever date field that you have to determine weekday versus weekend. And then I'm going to show this as a bar chart to compare the order volumes to see if there's difference. So upon the user's explicit approval, agent goes about rendering those steps in that said sequence. You can, after the execution of the step, expand to see what the underlying calc entails. You can go back if you're not quite happy with the proposed plan from agent. You can re-engage with the chat interface to say, you know what, actually make this calc in LOD. Or I don't want to see this as a bar chart, make this stack bar chart or what have you, whatever makes sense. But this is the reasoning capability at play. This, and again, this is a feature that will come out in the April-May timeframe. There we go. Besides, you would see a similar reasoning capability in prep as well. In prep, what is available today is the ability to create calculations using natural language. We are now expanding that skill set to what are the most common data transformations that you tend to do in prep. It is pivot, transform, join, union, and so on. So how do we enable analysts to go about doing the sequence of tasks using natural language? So this is where you could ask agent in prep that said question, hey, I want to extract field A, B, and C, or I want to extract parameter Z, or I want to do X. An agent will come back with the plan, which if you're happy with, again, hit apply all, an agent will execute through the series of steps on your behalf. And this composable AI, again, this falls into the second pillar of foundational capability, and again, is something that we're working on as a part of the April-May release timeframe. We've heard time and time again that there are developers, analysts who want to control the experience and interface where data insights from Tableau show up. So if you look at it, Pulse and Tableau Agent are curated experiences that we've built. But there are developers across our customers who say, I want this experience in a third-party chatbot, or I want this embedded in a different application. And all of this data source has already been modeled in Tableau. You've already invested this time and energy building out these published data sources and workbooks that you can just query, and you can build out these custom agents, if you will. So this is where we are working on Tableau Agent as an API, where you can ask a natural language question, and the underlying data would be retrieved. The underlying data frame would be retrieved for you to present it in whatever fashion you deem best. With that, this is a high-level overview of our agent roadmap. And again, a quick reminder on the forward-looking statement: always make your purchasing decisions based on the current feature functionality available. Quickly summarize what we have in the product now are some of the skills that I've demoed: the calculation assistance, the whisk assistance, providing descriptions for your data sources and workbooks. We've shown seen agent on the desktop, multilingual support, and so on. What's coming near term in the April-May timeframe is the dashboard insights agent as an API, which I just spoke to, the analyzer skill where agent gives you a forms a plan, and with your explicit approval goes about rendering it, and also the additional transformation skills in prep, besides support for additional languages. What we are ideating in the future term is how do we expand this agent as an API and embed them across other portals, if you will? How do we bring in additional data transformation capabilities in prep besides the ad hoc Q&A experience on dashboards that our business users so badly have been requesting? So this kind of, that's a brief overview of the roadmap that we are working on. And again, if you want to learn more about Tableau Agent, the first link here takes you to how you can do a 2-week trial of Tableau Agent, or please feel free to reach out to your account executives. They'd have more information on the same. We have a wide variety of blog posts talking about Tableau Agent, what are the best practices, how do you trust the results from Tableau Agent, and a couple of other relevant articles as well. As always, feel free to reach out to me or on LinkedIn, Slack, what have you, and I'm happy to respond to any of your questions. With that, I'll hand the reins over.
Thank you so much, Swetha, Christina, and Daniel, for taking us through all these upcoming features. Some of them, most of them, are really exciting, and having them in desktop will really be just great. It will be a great experience, and for those who are learning, and that learning curve can be altogether accelerated with this. So, and thank you so much, Daniel, for answering most of the questions in the Q&A. I was just going through the list, and it's almost, you have already covered, I think, 90% of the questions. So
I got a few. I don't think I got 90%, but
yeah,
I took the
but
easy ones and left all the hard ones for Christina and Swetha.
yeah, no, but that helps a lot. Okay. Annabelle answered this, but I think that this is an interesting question. With agent, would there be a way to save a script that you can just apply when creating a new dashboard? I have certain fields I create first whenever I create a new dashboard, and it would be to create a have a file I can upload, and agent executes the creation of these calculated fields. So the question is more likely on
Well,
like, can there be a script that we can just use with the agent and it can do that foundational work for us?
we've had similar asks, but more around formatting. Can agent, I've already got this dashboard that has all of my explicit formats and fonts and themes with the spacing and so on. Can agent copy this over? We are, as we discussed, we are ideating and trying to explore all the potential possibilities. Annabelle, I'm sorry, I forget who asked the question, but I would like to know more about their specific use case with respect to scripts and what those entail. But short answer, we don't have timelines yet, but something we are exploring.
Okay, that's good. There was a question around, I think this is much to do with Tableau Pulse, because most of the questions are, as I said, already answered by Daniel. So I'm having a hard time finding a question that isn't answered. Okay, let me just go through. I saw an interesting one. It was related to using RLS, row level security, with Tableau Pulse. How we can actually restrict that information with Tableau Pulse
Yeah,
based
I'll
on
take that.
users. Mhm.
I can take that one. So what's really important, and Dan kind of had it in his slide, Tableau is a platform, and Tableau Pulse sits on top of the published data sources, right? So you create your published data source, may that be a regular published data source or virtual connections. It doesn't, from a Pulse perspective, it doesn't matter. And so role level security in general should always be done on a data source level, right? So you want to make sure you don't implement role level security so that it is good for Pulse. You want to make sure that when somebody builds a dashboard on that same data, they also have role level security. So the data source is where you kind of start bringing that in. And if it's a live data source and not an extract, you can even do that on which other systems. So there's a variety of different techniques that you can use. But the most important thing is that as part of that published data source or the underlying things, we respect the role level security, regardless whether you're using Pulse or you're using a workbook to create the information that you have.
That makes sense. Like if we reinforce all these settings at the data source level itself, we can
Yeah.
control, and it can be reused
Yeah,
across
and on that,
multiple instances.
it can be reused. On that same note, for Pulse, we often get questions on how do I configure the week start or the fiscal year start and things like that. Those are also settings you can do in the data source. Again, you set it up in the data source and then it applies to anybody, regardless whether they're using Pulse, Agent, or any other thing in the workbook manually created. So those settings that you can set on the data source is actually very powerful.
Got it.
There were a very interesting question that has been wrote a lot. I don't know if you could answer on that. It's about the analytic pane, and if you had plan of expanded the capabilities there. It has been years that it hasn't been touched.
Yeah, I can chime in on that. We don't have anything kind of in the active state to develop anything new on the analytics pane. And just to be clear, the analytics pane I'm referring to make sure it's the same one the question was asked about, right? Like over in the left-hand side, there's the data window where you have all your fields and you can drag your fields out, and then you can switch that at the top to the analytic pane. And that's how you can drag out reference lines and clusters and things like that. So in there, we've certainly got a desire and to do more there. We don't have any active development around things there. We've recently had one of our guys, one of our engineers, we do a few times a year, 3 times a year, kind of aligning with our major releases internally, we do what we call hackathons. And it's basically a few days for the engineers to kind of prototype whatever they want, right? They come up, we've had so many amazing and clever ideas come up through the hackathon process. In fact, the original analytics pane, like years and years back, was the result of a hackathon. Somebody came up with that idea, and then we took that onto the regular roadmap and introduced it. So where the story's going is in one of our just recent hackathons, one of the fellows did some work there to just explore what's the boundary of what could be done and what could we potentially do next. So internally, it kind of renewed our interest a little bit. Like we knew we needed to get back and do some work there someday. His hackathon work kind of renewed our interest. So we're talking about it more. I don't have anything, and sadly, I can't say, oh yes, we've got a team of engineers working on things right now, but our interest is perking back up. So I agree that we're long overdue on that, and perhaps we can get there before too long.
Okay, so I think we're good with questions. There's some around. I think it's more about there's a specific question like company. There is a Viz extension that came in and it's really of good use, and so many people are adopting it. Now there's a question by Rick that he is asking, why hasn't Tableau expanded Show Me? Like different companies are bringing extensions into the picture, and he works for government and he finds Tableau already expensive to purchase. So having that extension is an extra cost. So what do you think about that? Because I know about Viz extension and it's quite great, but he has his own point from his perspective as well.
Yeah, maybe that's another one for me. So, when we created Viz extensions, we had the idea, like we knew we could never. So VizQL, the engine behind where Tableau creates all its kind of magic, really. It's kind of the bridge between running the queries to the database and then painting marks to the canvas. We've always known we'd never be able to keep up with all the chart types and all the mark types that the world wanted. There's just more requests out there than we knew we would ever be able to develop, and all kinds of clever and creative ideas on doing things that are out there. So a few years back, we decided, one of the things we should do, rather than us being the bottleneck in getting more chart types available to everyone, is let's make this an extensible framework. So very much like Photoshop has. You go get all those filters, and you can download thousands of filters from different places and plug them into Photoshop and put the Picasso filter, the watercolor filter, all those kind of things into Photoshop to monkey around with your pictures and things. So we kind of use that as the inspiration for what we did with Viz extensions. We said, well, we want to let the community create and build their own things. So that's where Viz extensions started. And then anytime you let the community do things, there's a place for some things to be given away for free, and some things that perhaps have more capabilities and take a little bit more time and investment by the partner or the customer or whoever creates that. Maybe needs to be remunerated a little bit for that extra bit of work they do to take something to the next level. So that's where some of the pricing comes in on that front. So there's many free ones that are out there, which we think are great. I use some in my regular dashboards I build internally and stuff and do things, and it's really wonderful. So I think the essence of the question was more around Viz extensions sometimes can be hard to acquire, whether it's licensing cost or finding them and downloading them and getting them approved to use internally and things like that. I think the question probably is more around that rather than what turns up in Show Me. Although we have also talked about, should those Viz extensions that you've installed on your machine indeed show up in Show Me? So that's another thing we've talked about internally. Showing up in Show Me is something we've talked about. Again, that's one we don't have any active work on right now, but we have talked about that. We understand the desire for it. On the other side of it is how to help you find and get approved and run things in Viz extensions, share those, We've kicked around the idea about like internal marketplaces rather than going to the public exchange to get all your Viz extensions if your company has licensed them. So all those are things we're continuing to explore a little bit, and you'll probably see some changes from us in the perhaps back half of this year on that front. Some things to help, but it's a slow burn on doing some of that work because there's we just know we need to do more, but it's priorities on trying to get some of that stuff out there. I think take to heart though, the value is in that creativity that the community creates and gives you the opportunity to do things. One last comment, because I know it comes up when I give similar answers in other places on Viz extensions. We know, and I along with probably everyone else on the call who's got a Tableau public account would desperately love to get more Viz extensions available on public, and so we're looking at that pretty aggressively. So hopefully we'll have some news on that before too long.
That will be superb to have more of them on Tableau Public. To not write more mathematical equations. Okay, I'll take this last question, and this is from Annabelle. Did this got answered, Annabelle? Is agent capable to update the calculation description? Are you talking about comments?
No, but I think that's what almost answer. It was when she creates a calculation and she said, hey, she can we can ask agent to describe the calculation. And my question is, can I click then after and say, hey, please update it on the description or in the hashtag in the calculation? But maybe it's coming on the new Tableau desktop agent.
Yeah.
That is something we've discussed. But right now, to auto augment the calculated model with the comments as well. So that's absolutely something we've discussed. We were just checking in on the performance implications if we have too much text on the calc model. Yeah, right now the descriptions are only on the chat pane.
But I'm more interested, or like someone answering my question, when will I be able to change the color in Tableau Pulse?
Right now, it's not on the roadmap to do so, but we talked about the idea place, and this is where, the idea exchange, you can bring in all of your ideas and have them upvoted. As Dan said, we do regularly look at that. Right now, we were really focusing on making sure that we get insights out rather than giving a lot of configuration on the look and feel. As you see, everything is auto-created. Not the first time I hear the request, but yeah, please submit it and have it upvoted and we'll consider.
I think I already submitted. It's just like to avoid, the green and red calculation. Especially if you're an enablement specialist and you say all day that we should not use this color, and then they are paying something else. It's like
100%. The one thing to kind of emphasize is that we do, with anything that is the deltas, we are following other best practices, for example, always including the sign if we're looking at a delta. So that will make it a little bit easier for somebody who is, not as good in recognizing red and green from that perspective. So we are following some other visualization best practices for sure.
And I have to say that it improved since the first version. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We are rapidly releasing as well. So that's the goal.
Okay, so we'll wrap up with the Q&A now. Thank you so much for answering all of our questions and for taking us through this whole roadmap. I think everyone is quite excited. I can see the comments in the chat as well, and so many questions. That speaks it for self. So thank you so much again, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing all this knowledge with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks everyone who came to the call. It was a pleasure. Have a good one.
And for all our attendees, see you next month. We already have our next session already planned. It's not just next session, but we have already planned it for the whole year almost. So please do sign up and see you in March.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.